And inside that Democratic caucus meeting today was local Congressman Wiley Nickel. Just last week, Nickel told CBS 17 that President Biden needs to do more to prove himself to those who may now doubt him after the debate. I asked Representative Nickel where he stands since today's meeting.
Strength lies in our alliances as well.
Beating Donald Trump is one thing House Democrats agreed on behind closed doors Tuesday. But for some within the party, just how to get there is still a dilemma. Congressman Wiley Nickel was in the room.
We've got a House Democratic caucus with a lot of different opinions, but we're all of the same opinion that we've got to unite to work together to beat Donald Trump.
Western Carolina political scientist Chris Cooper says if there were a collective decision by congressional Democrats to find a different way to do that, it doesn't mean they'd get their way. It's ultimately President Biden's decision.
Let's pretend for a second that they came out of that caucus meeting today and said, we're done with Joe Biden. That doesn't really mean that anything happens, right? That doesn't mean that he's off the ballot. That doesn't mean that he's not the nominee.
Representative Nichols says he's still hearing concerns in his home district, which includes Wake and Johnston County.
What's certainly clear is that President Biden had a very bad debate. The questions about whether he's up to the job are very legit questions. They are questions that I hear about over and over from my constituents, and it's up to President Biden.
Nickel also says he stands behind the president and believes Joe Biden can win in November, but it's the voters who need convincing.
I can't put this issue to bed. He's the only one that can put the issue about his age and ability to do the job to bed by getting out there, getting in front of this issue, talking to folks. He ought to be talking to CBS 17, and he ought to be out there doing town halls in North Carolina so the voters can see him in action and make up their mind for themselves.
Professor Cooper says as much as the Biden campaign and the White House may want to move on, that may not be the reality in the months to come.
I think the problem for Joe Biden is if he steps aside and says, I'm no longer the nominee, the conversation's over. Until that moment happens, if that moment happens, we're going to continue this conversation over and over and over again.
And if you'd like to read statements we received yesterday from Durham Congresswoman Valerie Foushee and Wake County Congresswoman Deborah Ross, you can find them at CBS17.com.